The biggest challenge that we're facing is just the sheer impact, obviously, to the roadway itself with the existing conditions that we walked into. And one of the things that we initially looked at, and part of the asset, is we knew there were going to be daily decisions and constant changes with some of the aspects of how we were going to have to tackle building this roadway back. So one of the things early on that we figured out that we needed to do in order to make sure that we're being good stewards of the taxpayers' dollar is trying to figure out, with complete sections of roadway missing, how are we going to get from the beginning of the project back here where we just entered all the way to the end of the impacted section of roadway, you know, as we go on up 58 here. Weather's obviously changing, so that becomes a huge concern to us. The temperatures, we have folks that are going to have to be out in the waterway in order to actually do this construction and setting some of these rocks. So that in itself creates safety concerns on VDOT's behalf and on the contractor's behalf with their workers. So that's something that we obviously take seriously. And when the snow obviously begins to fly up here, that's going to create slick situations. So we have access issues as it is, and then once you take and you marry that with the weather that we're in, obviously that amplifies everything.
We're pushing hard because the stream's low now. Come spring, the creek's going to get higher. It's going to get even harder to work in here.
We want to ensure that, A, we have a safe roadway for the folks to be able to travel back and forth. That's our ultimate goal, is to replace this and make sure that we have safe travels for the public. Outside of that, we want to ensure, as Dennis has kind of been keying along as we've been walking, we're doing our efforts within the constraints of what we can do to make sure that we do the cleanup efforts outside of the roadway that are incorporated in part of our build, so that when we're done, we want 58 to be recognized as kind of what it once was prior to this event.
Walk cliffs on one side and you'll have these boulders on the other. Right. So if you're on the creeper trail, you look over here, it's going to look natural.
Aesthetically, we want to make sure that whatever we're tying in is not only safe, but it's aesthetically pleasing as well, because it's important to us in different ways. And I think we've said once before, we have a lot of local folks that are working on this project, both with VDOT. So our involvement, we're not really just looking at this as building a road. We're essentially bridging these communities back together, and we recognize that. So the input that we're pushing forward in part of this process, we want to, it's a little more than just building a road to us.